Now, nobody wants to go into a lesson unprepared and have unplanned lessons, but sometimes things just go against us. Maybe a teacher is sick and you're asked to cover their class because you have a free period during that time. So you don't really have time. Maybe it's like 10 minutes before the lesson if it's the first lesson, or maybe you're busy during the day and when it comes to that free lesson, you didn't actually have any time to prepare for that lesson because you were teaching and now you have your cover class. Or there could be some similar circumstances but slightly different where you just didn't have time to prepare for a lesson and you kind of need to go into it prepared. So I have prepared lessons for unprepared lessons, if that makes any kind of sense. So these are lessons where I don't need any preparation beforehand. I just kind of go into them knowing what I'm going to do because the lesson can fit kind of any language point. And for today's video, I'm going to show you what I would do for young learners, say grades 1 to 4, but most likely grades 1 to 3. It's just that I know this class can work with grade 4 since that's the current grade I'm teaching. But mostly if I was asked to cover a lesson between grades 1 to 3, with very short notice, this is what I would do. So maybe in every sort of school, you have a way where lessons are meant to start. Here in our school, when we enter the classroom and the sound that goes for the lesson to begin, you ask the students to stand up, you say good morning or good afternoon, and the students repeat good morning, good afternoon with you too. It only takes a few seconds, so it doesn't really necessarily take any space on my lesson plan. Then I will do an introduction. If the students don't know me yet, I would play hangman with my name. So instead of just telling them my name, I would play hangman. Now obviously my name is very short, just 4 letters, Adam, so it doesn't take that long to do it, but I also do it with Teacher Adam. So we play hangman with Teacher Adam, and then I will use a little drill game with small and big circles to drill my name to the young kids. Now the small circle is where we would whisper my name, Teacher Adam. And then the circles will get slowly bigger and it gets louder and louder and louder. And towards the very big circle, the students aren't really saying my name, they're just kind of screaming. But it's kind of a little fun way to start a class with young learners who don't know you yet and may be a little bit nervous about you teaching them. Now during this time, this is where I'd kind of have a warm-up ready. Now you could use that as your warm-up, as that could take about 5 minutes, which is a good time for a warm-up. However, that sometimes can take a little bit less, like that could take 1 or 2 minutes as well. So I'd have another warm-up sort of prepared. I would have an image on the board, on the TV. All of our screens here, all of our classrooms here have TVs attached so that we can have PPTs. So I'd have an image, just a normal JPEG image, on the TV whilst I was teaching them my name. And then once I had finished teaching them my name and they've seen the image on the TV, I take the image down and I would ask them, what did they see? Now usually I do this with animals as they are most likely going to know some animals, whether it's cat or dogs or lions or cow. Like some of the first animals that you learn in the younger grades, grades 2 and 3 will know a lot more animals. So it kind of catches them off guard. They kind of have to remember they were looking at this for maybe about 5 minutes, maybe a little bit less, but they were looking at this image. And this is also the warm-up game I would use if the students already knew who I was and I didn't have to teach them. If I didn't have to teach them my name, you show an image, it can be of anything, it can be of food or animals. I prefer animals. If I've already taught the class before, maybe I would use a different picture than I've already used, but if it's my first time teaching them, I always go with animals as a safe bet. So you remove the picture and they have to tell you what animals were on the screen. And this is also where I'll be setting my classroom into teams, usually 2 teams if I'm new to the class. So I just have like this side and that side. And then maybe I'll give them a color name. Sometimes you can ask them for a team name and you can like draw a picture if they would say an animal. But usually we have different colored chalk, so it'd be like red team and blue team. And then you move on to the part which you are teaching. Now hopefully you've been left with information about what it is that they are going to be taught, like which page of the book. Usually you're teaching from some form of curriculum and you're kind of just doing the next lesson in the curriculum. So even if it's just you're on the keyword stage, or if you're on the sentence stage, or if you're on the question and answer stage, I would still use the same games throughout all of my unprepared lessons. So I would teach them the new vocabulary using TPR, where we provide actions to all the words. So even if maybe the other teacher had taught them previous actions, if we was already on the question and answer stage, for example, what is it? It's a cat. I would just introduce them to my actions just for the sake of saving time. So I would teach the new words or sentences whilst using actions, and we have actions for pretty much every word. And this will come in handy later because my free practice requires them to know actions for the words. So once you've spent a few minutes teaching them some actions, and teaching them the new vocabulary or the new sentence structure that they will be learning in this lesson. I then move on to the controlled practice part of my lesson. And during this part, I would use what I call the bomb game. I'm not sure if there is a more official name for this, but this is just the name I call it. So I draw circles on the board, and in each different circle, I have an action. Maybe the action is to stand up. So when we're drilling the words, for instance, it's a cat, and then I would hit one of the bombs, and if it's to stand up, the whole class has to stand up. The first team to fully stand up gets some points. And then I would select another action. The action could be sit down, or the action could be to do something silly, or to do some sort of like weird dance. And when the first team to fully recognize the action they're meant to be doing, you give points accordingly. Usually with the silly dances, I'm just sort of like bouncing between them without giving points, and then it's sort of the stand up and sit down, which is where I would usually give points. Young kids sort of love this game. It's very funny, it's very silly. And don't forget, during this, you can also go around and drill individually. So I'd drill the whole class, I would drill this side, I would drill that side, and then I would go in between the aisles and drill individual kids as well, hearing each kid's pronunciation. I usually read the classroom. If the kids are enjoying this, we just keep on playing this for a few more minutes. If they're not, I would change the game to a different one, which is where I have dice already in my office. So I'd also bring some dice, and I would use the dice as a point system where they could roll the dice. If they got a 4, they get 4 points, and they would have to repeat the language point 4 times. So it'd be like, it's a cat, it's a cat, it's a cat, it's a cat. 4 points. The other side rolls it, they would roll the dice. If they got a 6, they would have to say the words 6 times as a class. So like, it's a dog, 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 it's a dog. 6 points. But usually they are having too much fun with the bomb game that I don't really usually have to do this dice game as a backup, but I have it just in case. Or maybe the class is too excited and you want to calm them down, then you can go to the dice drill game. What I would do for the free practice game is usually hot seat. Again, it doesn't require any preparation, and you've kind of prepared it before. When you've taught them the new language point, you've taught them actions. So hot seat works in a way where if I'm sitting here like this, I am facing the classroom and I cannot see what is behind me. So as the teacher behind, I would select something on the TV from the language point, and then the students have to act it out. And the 2 students sitting with their back to the board but facing the class then have to watch the actions that the student is doing, and then they have to say the correct answer. So for example, if the teacher behind me pointed to a cat, the students would start acting out the cat action. So they would start going like this, but quietly. You've got to make sure that they don't speak, not like, it's a cat, it's a cat. Just making sure that they're just doing the actions and no talking. And then the students sitting here would have to be like, it's a cat. And then points to the first person to say the answer. That the person who says the answer first, their team get 2 points. And if the other student says it correctly, but just afterwards, I would also give them 1 point. And then we just simply come up to the wrap-up stage, where I just want to review the new language that I've taught the students as we're getting closer to the end of the lesson. So for this, I don't really have a game. I just have the students all sit in well. If I did want to include a game, it would be a dice game where I would number the language points and they could roll a dice. But usually, I just ask the students what language we learnt today. And if it's a young class and they don't fully understand all the English you're telling them, then I would show them in the book, like what was this one and what was this one. Students raise their hand and they answer. Not so much of a game, just as a wrap up, and then I would sort of drill that again. And then if there is still time left, sometimes there's still a few minutes left for this game, so I play a guessing game with them. Depending on the level of the student, whether it's grade 1, it would be a much simpler guessing game, to whether it's grade 3, I can use a slightly more difficult guessing game. But it's the same guessing game, it's a number guessing game. So for grade 1, I would write 1 to 10 on the board. I would take a piece of paper and I'd write a number on them on the piece of paper without them seeing. And I would ask them to guess the number I've written. So as they guess, I would erase the number and say nope. So if I had written 8 on the paper, and they guessed 3, erase 3, Another student comes, he says 10, you erase 10, and it keeps going until they get the correct answer. Once they get the correct answer, I would give them sort of the reward, which is probably a sticker. So then they get a sticker and maybe a point as well for the team. For the older grades, I do the same, but I don't write all the numbers on the board, and it can be between 1 and 100. And for this way, I would write the number on a piece of paper. It's like, what's my number? So if it's between 1 and 100, I only have 1 and 100 written on the board, and as they guess, I shrink it. So if they guess 10, it's now between 10 and 100, especially if I chose 50. And then if they guess 60, it's now between 10 and 60. And then if they guessed 48, it's now between 48 and 60. And then if they guess 52, it's now between 48 and 52, up until the point where the student gets the correct answer. So in this way, it's getting smaller and smaller, as just having to say have to guess every single number between 1 and 100. And then we always finish the same way in my school, where it's like stand up and it's like class is over, goodbye, the students say goodbye teacher, and that would be the end of my class. As I say, we don't want to do lessons unprepared, but sometimes we have no choice and we have to go into a class without any preparation. I hope this video has provided you with some useful information, and if this has provided any sort of useful information, please like and subscribe. And if you have any other ways in which you can go into a lesson unprepared at such short time, please let me know down below as well, as this kind of information is always very useful, as sometimes we do have to come up with stuff on the spot. But that's all I have to say for today. And as we say in China, bye-bye.